Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Driver's Edition here on Beyond the Wheel podcast. And today we have a lot to talk about. So without wasting any time at the beginning, Kenny, I suppose we should jump into it. And the first thing is the FMCA convention that we just attended.
Yeah, always a great time to be out there, to see everybody, have people stop by the booth. I'm going to say that they've really rolled out the red carpet for us this year. I think they did a really nice job of not just welcoming us there, but giving us a nice little setup. We had a great table area. We had a tent, which we never had before, and that will definitely be a request for all future shows that we do with them because that especially that one in Tucson, Arizona, the sun can get hot. Um, but it made us look very official, I thought.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And I think every year that we go, I like it more and more. It seems like we get good interviews with people, and people are, that's just one of my favorite kind of rallies anyway, because it's kind of my speed of people, not a lot of wild partying and stuff going on
Hmm.
there.
Yeah, yeah. They definitely keep us entertained and their shows and stuff like that going on. But I agree. I like the I like the speed that everything moves out at that show. And like you said, Sean, we get really good guests. I mean, some of the guests, big name Michelin tire. I mean, that normally would have been probably a very difficult um, grab for us, I guess you could say, to have them on the show. And they couldn't have been any nicer. They were excited to be on the show, very well prepared, probably more prepared than any other guests that we've had on. Not that our other guests aren't prepared, but um, he had like a little, not even a pamphlet, but he had a couple pages of notes that he wanted to make sure that he was saying all the right things for our questions.
Yeah, it was a good time this year. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, and we came up with a pretty good idea, kind of a 50-50 idea, because you had the idea of a PA system, and then I had the idea of looping some of our old episodes. And I just felt, with that tent area looking so official, we were able to play like 3 or 4 episodes of our archived episodes. So, as people would walk by, they put us in a great spot right by vendor hall. So it's always busy. There's always people coming by, picking up stickers and stuff like that. And we were able to have some of our older episodes playing. We kind of played like the best of beyond the wheel while set up there.
Yeah, that's right. That was a good idea. And we could actually walk away and still have a presence, I guess, with those episodes playing.
Yeah, because we want, like you said, it's a great show and we want to see stuff too. So we were able to walk away. We did some RV tours. We went through the vendor hall, and yeah, we could get to enjoy the show. We went down to the restaurant and hit some of the food trucks. Yeah, it's a really fun show for anybody that's listening, never been to one of these conventions. They're very extensive. They're very well thought out. You can do as little or as much as you want to do. I mean, they got stuff going on that you can be entertained the entire time you're there, or you just kind of pick and choose. They got seminars, so you can learn a lot. You're going to get deals on uh, what the vendors bring. There's usually show prices for a lot of these things. It's a great event, just super event. If you haven't been to, we both of us definitely highly recommend going to one. And one of the other guests that we had was another new guest for us, and it's a company called Kleen Tank, and it's spelled Kleen Tank. And all these episodes will become upcoming episodes. So definitely keep an eye out for them. And that was a great episode. And while you're listening to that episode, pay attention to what this guy is saying because we didn't know at the time, but he was very nervous to be on the show. He said he had trouble sleeping the night before. So you'll get a little bit of a backstory there of just how well he did on the show for being as nervous as he is. But Kleen Tank is a company that cleans out your holding tanks and gets them back to a factory new. So if you have, say, maybe you go into your RV and you look at your holding tanks and you know that you just emptied them, but they're still reading 2/3 full. If it's not a faulty sensor, then most likely your tank is just all gummed up with junk. And I'm drawing a blank on the guy's name that we interviewed, but he had a lot of great information. He wasn't just selling the Kleen Tank service. He's got a lot of great information in there to keep your tanks clean. They also provide a recipe. I'll call it a recipe, I guess, of a tank solution that you can use in your tanks instead of pods. And when you listen to the episode, he'll explain why he doesn't really like the pods or those other types of tank cleaners. And when he's talking about it, you're like, all right, well, he's probably selling his own, or Kleen Tank selling their own type of cleaner, and that's why he doesn't like the other cleaners. But it's not that at all. He actually gives you a homemade recipe that you can make and put in your tanks, and that's what I started using myself. So as time goes on, I'll let you guys know how well it works. But you take a 1 gallon bucket, you add 8 ounces of Calgon bath pearls, beads, or liquid, and then you measure out 40 ounces of pine sol. You mix all that up. You add water till you get to that gallon. You shake it all up, and that's all there is to it. And this Kleen Tank swears by this. He said, the pine sol is a cleaner. The Calgon creates a very slippery surface, so it kind of coats the inside of your tank, preventing you to be able to have any type of buildup. And I was so impressed with this little, man, it would almost felt like a little seminar that he was giving us, Sean. But I was so impressed with it. I went ahead and I booked a service with them right there at the FMCA show, and they cleaned out my tanks, and they let you watch. He points out little things. So he saw, if mold was coming out, he could point out, what was mold and things like that. And my tanks have never been this clean. I know that's for sure, because he dumps the tanks. Then they got, I don't know what would you call it? Like proprietary type of equipment that they go in and they clean out the tank. So even after he dumped the tank, he cleans it all out. Even more comes out. He cleans it again. Even more comes out. Both my tanks are reading empty now when they're empty, where my black tank was not. My gray tank was, but my black tank would always read a third, even when I was done emptying the tank. And I even have a black tank flush that I use all the time. But Sean, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't he say there were times where there is so much gunk built up inside a black tank that it actually reduces the size of your holding tank over time? It can build up that much.
What was that, Kenny? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he was telling us that over time that you can build enough gunk in your black tank to actually reduce the overall size of your tank.
Yeah, I think he gave a couple examples where it was pretty significant.
Yeah, so if you're
I do think,
boondocking,
though, it's probably good to use that stuff. I forget how often he said to use that mixture, but that's probably really good for your tanks to use that lubricating solution, I guess, that they recommend. And I think even one of us asked him where we could buy it or how you could purchase it, and he was like, "No, no, no, we just give you the recipe."
yeah, it's great. It seems like a really upfront, down to earth, no strings attached type of company. They're not hiding behind anything. I think they're just providing a great service. I would recommend them after having the service done. I paid for the service. I didn't get a discount or anything. Well, I got a show price discount, but I didn't get anything more than that. I didn't get anything special, and I would 100% have this done again. I think the show price was $250. I have a paper right. Yeah, $250. They even gave me a health report of my tanks, what they found in there, and like I said, I would have it done again if I felt my tanks were getting gummed up again. I thought it was a great service, and the nice thing about the service is that they are mobile. They can come out to you in certain areas. So yeah, look up Kleen Tank. I think we're going to add them to the Brands We Trust tab on our page, and we're going to talk more about that Brands We Trust later on in the episode.
And I think, Kenny, they're like almost like a franchise where there's owners or operators all around the country that perform this service.
Yeah, so the person we talked to, it was like a husband and wife team. They own the franchise for that area that they're in. They're like the southeast, no, southwest, southwest area. Yeah, you're right, Sean. I think it was. I'm looking for his name and I can't find it because I would like to give him a shout out. of just because he was so great on the show and he did such a great job. Jack Pate, and he's actually in North Carolina, Sean. He came a long way for that show.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that. So he is not Southwest. He's taking care of the North Carolina area, but I guess Kleen Tank wanted him to be out there to represent the company and do those services out there. Well, Jack, we do appreciate you coming on the show. If you're listening, and you guys out there, if you just go to cleantank.com, and that's with a KLEEN tank TANK.com. Look for Jack in the North Carolina area.
And Kenny, I just wanted to mention too that besides having episodes, we're putting as much as we can from that show since we filmed it live and put it on Facebook. We're also trying to add them to YouTube as we go as well.
Yeah, that's right. So you can just go to Beyond the Wheel podcast YouTube channel, and then you get to see us, which is always, I think that's always nice. You get to see what we look like. You get to see what the guest looks like. I know in the coming down the line, one of the guests that we had was Daryl from the RV. Well, he's from Wacko, but one of the products he makes is the RV silencer, RV AC silencer. And he brought out, I'll call them props. Like he brought out little parts of the product, and he, kind of did like a show and tell with it. So I think that'll be a really good episode to show on YouTube as well.
And then you also, since we've been to that show, I think you went on your RV trip to Mexico with the Fantasy RV Tours, and then you're going on another pretty cool RV trip, taking your Jeep to Moab with Fantasy RV Tours as well.
Yeah. Yep. So the Mexico trip, that was amazing. That was like 14, 15 days. And, we have friends that will sometimes look at a fantasy RV tour. That was our third one. We're about to do our fourth one, which is the Moab one. And they look at the price. I think for the price of these trips, it's incredibly reasonable. So it was about $3,000 for the Mexico trip. It's 15 days. A lot of your food is included. The wineries are included. You have I would say for going into Mexico especially, you have a support group. Not that it's dangerous down there and not that anything's going to happen to you down there, but we did run into a couple incidents where somebody got stuck on a rock and broke their exhaust. I carry a ridiculous amount of tools with me. The wagon master and the tail gunner, they have a lot of tools with them. We were able to cut out the bad parts of his exhaust. He hit this rock actually so hard. It's a shame that he actually pulled the exhaust right out of his catalytic converter.
Wow.
But we were able to patch them all back together, use wire, like a clothes hanger for wire hangers because he broke his exhaust hangers, and replaced them. And, if he was down there by himself and this all happened in Mexico, not speaking any Spanish at all, he could have been trapped down there for, a long period of time, or even best case scenario, I think it would ruin his trip to Mexico because one, he'd be stranded out in the middle of nowhere type of thing. And that wasn't the only time that something like that happened. Somebody got a big diesel pusher. We did a lot of camping on the beach, which was really nice. But when we were backing out, everybody backed out, and this diesel pusher got his front passenger side tire stuck in the sand. And we've had something like Sabrina and I have had something similar to this happen before. So we knew that a good way to get him back out of the sand was to use the jacks and boards, and we were able to lift up the passenger side of his vehicle, put boards under that tire, get boards underneath his driving tires. Actually, the tail gunner from Fantasy RV Tours had like those, I think they're called like the Max Tracks, those orange plastic. So we were able to get them under the tires, and we were able to get him out. So that's two incidents. Like if you were down there by yourself, you're not getting that Class A diesel pusher stuck out of the sand. He would have had to call a tow truck. He actually bought everybody a round of drinks that night.
Wow.
Because he felt that was way cheaper than what a tow truck would cost to get one down on a beach to pull his 44 foot diesel pusher out of. And then, Sean, you might understand this one a little bit better. I didn't get a full grasp of this. Somebody had a fifth wheel on the trip, and they have like maybe a locking pin on the fifth wheel that broke. So they pulled into the we were doing boondocking again, but just out in like a desert area, not beach. And they noticed it when they came off the road and went on to like this little off-road terrain, that it was had a clunking sound. And they had the part again. We're in a group, and I'm telling people in Mexico are so friendly. Somebody came over, saw that we were having an issue, went back to his house and got a welder and welded this part back onto his. I don't know if it's the horseshoe part of it, if it's on the RV side of things, but he was able to weld it back in place, and he made it. And that was early on the trip. He made it the whole rest of the trip. He doesn't even think he's going to have to fix it. The guy did such a great job welding this pin back together that he thinks he's okay for whatever amount of time he needs it for.
Wow. I'm not that great of a welder, but I've been thinking about throwing our one of our welders in the RV for when we're on a trip, because they can be so handy when you're stuck, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. I carry a lot of tools. I've never really thought about a welder, but our wagon master from the trip said he used to carry a welder and then he stopped. But he said he's going to start carrying it again after this because we had to borrow one. But like I said, the people in Mexico are really, really friendly. They are so excited to see us like driving down the road, and they're asking us to blow our horns. I mean, they're disappointed when we do blow the horn because they're expecting like a 18-wheeler type of horn, and we just have the regular Ford horn on ours. But I mean, and they're grown adults. We're at a gas station, and people came up to us and asked if they could climb up our ladder because they wanted to see what our roof looked like on an RV. I was like, it looks just like a roof, but you can go up there if you want to go take a look. Just don't fall.
And then your trip, you might need a welder on this next trip, Danny.
Yeah. So we're going to Moab for 8 days. We're doing 6 days of trail riding, and I don't have the list right in front of me, but we're doing 7 Mile Rim, which is supposed to be a pretty easy trail. But then we're also doing trails like Hell's Revenge and Steel Bender and Fins and Things, which are more difficult trails. And I'm super excited about this trip, not only because I like to take my Jeep off road and explore and stuff like that, but one, I'll be in a group. I very rarely drive my Jeep with anybody else. The only time I've ever done it was with Megan Butler from Her Fine Mess. She's got a Jeep Gladiator, and we were able to go trail riding together. That's the only time in over a year that I've been able to ride with anybody else. So the fact that I'll be in, again, with a group, especially off-roading and some of these technical, difficult trails, I think is going to be great. And the other thing I'm really looking forward to is that Jeep has something called the Badge of Honor, where when you complete a trip on one of their dedicated trails, they will actually mail you like this little, I don't know if it's metal or if it's plastic, but it's a decent sized badge, and you can attach it to the side of your Jeep saying, that your Jeep made that trail. I don't know how my Jeep's going to do. I do have an older, smaller Jeep. I don't have big tires. I don't have lockers. It's pretty stockish, I would say. I got a winch and stuff, which I did just have to use the other day, but it's still a stock Jeep. So I'm really curious to see how we do. Fantasy RV Tours says this is for all levels, beginners all the way to experienced. But I will say, like when I go on the Jeep app and look at some of these trails, they're recommending 32-inch tires, and I only have 30-inch tires, and I know that might not sound like a big difference, but it is.
Big difference, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
And a couple of these trails are on that Badge of Honor list.
I think 4 out of the 6 are badge of honors, or maybe 3 out of the 6. So yeah, I might be able to come home with. Well, I won't come home immediately with them. Jeep mails them to you within a 2-month period. But yeah, I might be able to earn 3, maybe even 4 badge of honors all in this one trip, which I'm super excited about.
Wow. Yeah, that'll be interesting to hear how it goes.
Yeah, I think there's about 12 to 14 of us going in the trip. And what they're doing for some of the trails, they're going to break us up like into 2 groups. So, half the group does one trail, the other half does the other trail, and then the next day you flip them. So it should be really interesting. And, Fantasy RV Tours always goes above and beyond, I feel like. So not only do you have your normal ambassadors on that trip as guides, but Fantasy RV Tours hired out a third-party Jeep tour company. So they're coming out there with us too. So this will be my first time even driving a Jeep with a spotter. So I think that'll be interesting too. Somebody to help you, all right, a little bit more to the passenger side, a little bit more to the driver's side, give it the beans, whatever, whatever you might need to get up some of these trails. Because when I'm watching videos and stuff like that, they look intense. Yeah.
This is the first time I think you said that Fantasy RV Tours is doing this kind of trip.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one ending right now. They were the very first trip, and we're the second trip. Um, and not just for this year, but like you said, Sean, this is the first year of them trying this off road. I think it's going to be really popular. The first one sold out. So Sabrina and I tried to get on that first one, and it sold out in no time. We were lucky to get on the second one. It sold out as well.
Wow.
So I think they definitely have something there on their hands. I'm just really curious to see. Like I said, I'm in a pretty stock Jeep, so we'll see how well it does.
And
Hopefully,
then
I come back with good news.
we wanted to talk a little bit about our experience with FMCA Tech Connect and the new T-Mobile Hotspot. And I'll just say it worked great. That's how we did all of our live podcasts down in Tucson at the FMCA convention. We used the Tech Connect hotspot, the T-Mobile hotspot and the Tech Connect service, and not one single issue with it the whole time.
Yeah, it was great down there, especially when you think about how many people are in that one location. You usually get a lot of not even just throttling, just a lot of people on the network using it. Usually slow things down, but like Sean said, we were able to do video and we were doing audio, and that is you know downloading and uploading kind of at the same time. So we were really putting it through its paces at that show, and yeah, it did great. I've been using the hotspot. I've brought it to a couple different states with me, and it's been working great. I even brought it down in Mexico, and it worked great in Mexico as long as we had service at all. We were in some parts of Mexico where nobody had service. T-Mobile, it didn't matter who you had, T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, nothing worked. The only thing that was working down there was Starlink and some of these very, very remote areas. But yeah, we thought it was great that the T-Mobile was working in Mexico at all. So, when we would go to our first couple campgrounds before we got too far south, it was even working in Mexico, and we didn't notice any throttling. We were able to check email and respond. I didn't try to do any video chatting with it, but I would imagine it would have been possible. I just don't know how great the images would be. But yeah, downloading stuff off of Google Drive, uploading things into Google Drive, it did all that. So yeah, it worked really well even in Mexico.
Yeah, I carry it in my backpack. So whenever I leave the house, I have it with me, and I haven't had any issues with it so far. I really like the service, and I think part of it is the actual hotspot itself is like beefy. It seems like it's pretty high tech hotspot. I think it's the newest version of hotspot that's out there. So yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and it's capable of 5G. It's funny that you mentioned that you put it in your backpack to take with you. I'm going to take it on the Moab trip, and I'm going to keep it in the Jeep so that uh, I'll have Verizon on my phone, and I'll have the T-Mobile for cruising around in the Jeep. When it comes to, I would say, when it comes to data and trying to, if you really want to stay connected in all situations, you have to have multiple sources. So Sabrina and I now have Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile because when you want to stay connected, that's sometimes what it takes. But I've honestly been able to just use the T-Mobile everywhere we've been going and not have to pull out the other hotspots and switch around. So it's been great to have.
Yeah, I'm going to be in Utah the same time as you, and actually the week after you, I'll be in Moab. So I'm curious to see how well it does out in some of those remote areas in Utah.
I'll 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 be able to give you a little bit of a heads up. Like I said, I will bring it into the Jeep. I just don't know. I'll only be using it when we stop somewhere. I won't really be using it unless if I use it for navigation or something like that. Maybe connect my phone to it and use it for my like Google Maps or something like that. So maybe I will be using it more than I even realize.
Yeah, yeah, but so far happy with it. And then Kenny, you were just in California at the Sea Otter Classic, which is kind of a unique thing for an RVer to go to. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It is different. That's for sure. So it was really cool to see just how I didn't realize what type of show this was as far as scale, but they had about 70,000. They were expecting 70,000 spectators, and they went over 70,000. It's a 4-day event in just outside of Monterey, California. Beautiful area. And they have mountain biking, they got trick biking, they have road race biking, and they have all these tracks set up across the area. Some of it you go actually down into the streets and stuff like that. They do uphill, just intense uphill climbing. But it doesn't remind me of a RVing type of event. There's very little camping or anything like that gear. Like they had 900 bike companies there, which I didn't even know there were 900 bicycle companies. And then they had to vend, a little over 100 vendors to support those bike companies. People that made pedals and helmets and clothing and all that stuff. But we Winnebago was there. Winnebago invited me to be there and help represent the company and help give tours to RVs. So Winnebago brought 6 RVs to tour, which I thought was going to be not too much, but it just bigger than like an overland show. So I wasn't expecting to have 6 vehicles out there. But the thing is that we were the only RV manufacturer out there was Winnebago. So we were jam packed just about every day. Sunday was the only day that it seemed that things cooled off, and I guess people were going back home. But I couldn't believe how busy we were on that very first day, on that Thursday. But the funny thing that I wanted to mention is the mentality in California being different than any other show that I've worked. The number one question normally is, how much does this RV cost, or what are the payments on this RV? But the number one question I was getting in California was, what was the miles per gallon? And it's
Ah,
and I guess it's because gas there is like $6 a gallon, and they must also be, we saw a ton of Teslas, EVs, and electric vehicles, so they must have like hardwired in their brain too, like range. I feel like range is something that I only hear mentioned in an electric vehicle, but they wanted to know, if they filled their tank, how far, what's the range, how many miles can they go on a full tank of gas in each individual vehicle. And it's funny, Sean, they wouldn't want to know just one vehicle. They would ask me the miles per gallon on every single vehicle. Like they would point and be like, what's that one? And what's that one? What's that? It wasn't even like they were choosing the vehicle that was best suited for them. They were kind of just looking for the best vehicle that gas mileage wise.
yeah, I would imagine when you're paying $6 plus for fuel, it starts to become a big consideration.
Yeah, it was by far the number one question. I I think maybe I've only been asked that question once or twice at all the overland shows. I don't think anybody's ever asked me how much what's the miles per gallon, how many miles per, because I think most people think if you're on BRVing, you just know it's expensive. You're not getting good gas mileage. So I think people usually just accept the fact that these are high profile vehicles. It's not usually the weight, it's the how tall they are and the aerodynamics.
Yeah, and they're rectangular.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I always say my Class A is literally the shape of a brick. It has
Yep.
zero aerodynamics to it.
Yep.
So it's not so much the weight that slows down its gas mileage, but the shape and size of it. So yeah, I thought that show was interesting to say the least. But you know what? Again, maybe it's an outdoor enthusiast type of thing. These people were just as nice as the people that we would see, say, at an FMCA show or at an overland show. Very respectful, asking if they could go inside the RVs before they just kind of walked right in. Asked if it was okay to sit in a chair, sit in the driver's seat. I got to the point that I would just, when somebody would walk up, I would just kind of greet them and say, feel free to go inside, feel free to lay on the bed, feel free to sit in any of the seats, just don't use the toilet. That became my thing.
Did anybody stay in those while, like in the after hours of the shows? Any of the people that came, was anybody staying in those RVs or no?
No, these 6 were just demo RVs. I will
Uh,
say I am gonna head out to the Escapees event, and in that event, a couple people from Forest City, whereas Winnebago is from, they're going to drive some units down. They'll be staying in them and giving demos of them.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so that one's gonna be a little different that way. That the demos will also be people using them to sleep in at night for the event.
Ah,
I don't know how many I don't know how many RVs are coming to that show. The Escapees one is in Rock Spring,
Rock
Wyoming.
Springs, yeah.
Yeah, I know at least 3 vehicles are coming down, but I don't know if Winnebago will have any demo only vehicles to show as well.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it will be interesting if people are staying in them, and then also, I guess you can't get too comfortable in there.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much I would like that. I
Yeah.
like to make a mess when I'm in the
Yeah.
RV. I have all my clothes out,
Yeah.
everything. Because then you're only there for a couple days. Do you really want to unpack everything, put everything away? I don't know. I kind of for a short trip like that, I think maybe a lot of people would just kind of live out of a suitcase. But if you're doing if we're using them for demos during the day, you can't really do that.
Yeah. Or if you have to go to the bathroom during the day, you
Can't do that either. You'll
can't
have to
do
use the
that
porta
either.
potty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you can't come in right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess now we could talk about a little news, Kenny.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We found a couple interesting things. The first one being that Dometic is going to be bringing their awning manufacturing back to Elkhart, Indiana. And Sean and I were just talking about this right before the episode started. I said to Sean, I was like, I'm not 100% sure where it went. I mean, I'm I wasn't really sure if it had left the country, went to a different state, or what was going on. But it did go to Mexico. Sean found out that it did go to Mexico for a little
Just in 2020, it moved to Mexico. So
long ago.
yeah,
So it seems like a weird move to me anyway. You put it there and then to bring it back must be, I would think, kind of expensive to make moves like that. But they do say they're going to keep their Mexico location, and that facility will do their aftermarket segment. I'm not 100% sure if that means aftermarket and just awnings, or do they do? I mean, Dometic makes a lot of.
a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's good that they're coming back to Elkhart, Indiana. I think I always call it like the RV capital of the world. I feel like that's where a lot of the manufacturers are. I think that helps supply and demand when they're right there in the same state where most of the RVs are being built. It seems like a weird move that they went to Mexico in the first place to me, but I'm sure there was, it always seems to come down to money. So it must have been a money thing, is my
Yeah.
guess.
Just the shipping from Mexico up to Elkhart was probably ridiculous to go back to the manufacturers. But yeah, it must have been something good in there, they thought.
Yeah, and actually, Todd from uh, the Medic, he was quoted as saying Elkhart, Indiana has always been the heart of the RV appliance business. So to me, I'm like, why did you take it away then?
Yeah. And this article came out of RV Business, and I just want to say we really like RV Business. They have a lot of good news, like up to date news. They're on top of the RV stuff going on, not just in Indiana, but all the manufacturing.
Yeah, yeah, they do a great job. We had them on the show before, John, and I remember asking them like, how do you guys stay on top of all these articles? Because I don't know if you remember, but wasn't it something like 18 a day of articles?
Yeah, something like that.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. It's actually amazing too that there's always that much going on in the industry, which I mean worked out really well for us that there was, because that's what
Yeah,
we focus on as well.
right.
But it's amazing just how much change happens. And this next article is a kind of proof of that. A Storyteller, which I associate as a van manufacturer. I know they do also make that Class C now, but I still picture them as a van manufacturer. They just purchased a company called TAXA Outdoors, which we had on the show as well. And TAXA, if you're not familiar with them, just Google Beyond the Wheel podcast TAXA, and the episode will come up. You'll be able to find it easily. But TAXA builds very unique looking travel trailers. I guess that's the best way to say it.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, I
unique
guess.
travel trailer.
Yeah. And the guy who started Taxa, we actually had him on the show a couple of years ago, and I think he started at NASA, right? Doing stuff for NASA. So the uniqueness really came through in the product.
Yeah, I almost whenever I see their travel trailers, and I'm not sure I'm really associating it the correct way. But it kind of reminds me of like, what's the term? Origami? How you fold paper and, because their trailers have interesting
Lines.
lines and folds, not folds, but bends and lines. Yeah. So I've always thought of them as that, but they're very, very lightweight. They're very sturdy. They're solid materials. But yeah, they bought Taxa. I think the Sean, do you remember who we interviewed? The guy that started the whole, what's
Can't
his
remember
name?
his name.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like Garrett, but I'm not 100% sure. But apparently, from what I've been told and what I'm reading, it sounds like he literally kind of flat out sold the company. He's not staying on board with the company. I mean, maybe they're using him as a resource for a little bit because here in this article I found that I cannot remember where I got it from. It says that they are bringing in somebody named Neil Grimmer, who started in a baby food brand, or organic, and then he worked management in Harley Davidson and other similar brands, and now he'll be the part of the taxa team. So I think uh, I think we'll see some interesting changes to taxa because Storyteller, I think, is very innovative in their own way as well. And I think, the fact that they're purchasing this company, I'm sure they looked at Taxa and said, oh, you know what, Taxa does things a little different as well. Maybe there's something there for us to build upon. I'm curious to see what type of changes we see coming out of Taxa. Will they change that overall look? Are they changing materials? I feel like they must be doing some type of changes because they're kind of not shaking up, but they're well, maybe not even restructuring, but they don't have somebody new leading it. And I just can't imagine that it would stay the same once you remove uh, you know, the founder and the CEO. I think we'll see some pretty interesting. In fact, I think I just saw somewhere down here, boldly explore and expand their horizons, connect more deeply with their growing community, acquisition, natural alignment of vision, values, and vibes. Yeah, I feel like both those companies have very similar vibe, very similar passion.
Yeah, you're right,
And
Kenny. His name was Garrett.
Garrett, oh, okay.
Yeah, and I when I saw this, I was really surprised because when we interviewed him, he seemed like super passionate about this. So I'm guessing he got paid pretty well for this company.
Yeah, I would imagine so. But yeah, when he talked about it, Sean, yeah, I agree. He almost talked like it was his baby. I mean, he
Yeah,
started in his garage, built the first one out of cardboard, and
cardboard. Yeah,
just over and over again, try to get the maximizing, space out of the inside with keeping it lightweight. Um, yeah, so I'm really curious to see where this leads for the taxa division, and we'll see them. I mean, we'll both be out at Overland East. They always are out at that show, so I wonder. That's only 8 months away, I guess. I don't know if they'll be able to make any changes that soon, but be interesting. Be interesting too to see distinction wise. Do they keep the two companies firmly separated? And
yeah.
I'm leading to something else with this, where you go to an overland show and you have Storyteller and you have Taxa, and they're not bleeding together. They're not maybe even parked next to each other, and they operate the two companies possibly very separate from one another.
It would be nice because they are totally different.
They are, yep,
Yeah,
yeah. Uh, vibe and stuff like that might be the same, and they might be still targeting a very young, hip
yeah,
crowd and stuff like that. But they are two very different products for sure. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, for sure.
You said you were leading to something else, Kenny.
Yeah, so what I'm leading into is like Grand Design is now entering the motorhome market. And for some people may know or you may not know, but Winnebago Industries owns Grand Design. And those two companies, Winnebago RVs and Grand Design, are very different from one another. Grand Design only builds towables, or was only building towables. Winnebago RVs, believe it or not, only builds motorized, because Winnebago Towables is something separate as well. And all these companies work independent from each other. But Grand Design just released information saying that they are going to build a motorized vehicle. This will be Grand Design's very first motorized vehicle. And I don't know. I don't have these answers. Somebody was asking me actually, and I don't know anything about Grand Design. I don't know if Winnebago Industries shares information with Grand Design of what Winnebago does. So I don't know if Winnebago helps Grand Design build this new motorhome in any way. Do they, pick the brains of the motorized department over at Winnebago when developing the Grand Design? I would think they do. I couldn't find anything in literature saying that they did do that. In fact, the only thing I could find about this new Grand Design motorhome is that it's built on a Mercedes chassis.
Yeah.
That's the only information I have. It was funny because somebody
I
came to
don't
me.
think it's I don't think it's a good idea, Kenny. I'm going to go on record now saying I don't think it's a good idea. Grand Design has been like the most popular fifth wheel brand, I think, for many, many years now. And why are they trying to go into motorized now when they can just continue to improve, put that energy into making even better and better towables and fifth wheels? I think jumping into the motorized is a mistake for them. But I'm not an expert in their company or anything, but just from outside looking in, how popular and how well received those, especially their fifth wheels, are. I just don't see the point in them going to motorized.
Yeah, I think it's a strange move for them. But I did have two people at the Sea Otter Classic come up to me and ask if we had the new Grand Design vehicle on display. And I had to explain to them that we were Winnebago, not Grand Design. And both of them said, but you guys own Grand Design. So I thought maybe you would have one of those vehicles here to show us. So people seem to be interested in the fact that they're looking for it. I mean, that was only two people out of, I mean, thousands. I gave people thousands of people tours that weekend. But to kind of go back to it, it's not the same company whatsoever. Like you would never see a Grand Design anything in a Winnebago booth. It's so, I mean, it's even weird to me because there is a parent company, like just like the Winnebago Rally that we do in July. You won't see a Newmar. Newmar's not even allowed on the property. Newmar's not allowed there. Grand Design, it's for Winnebagos only. That's how independent those companies are. They're just owned by the parent company, which is Winnebago. This confuses me all the time too. There's Winnebago Industries. Winnebago Industries is the company that owns all the companies under that. The Winnebago, the Newmar, the Grand Design, the Chris Craft, Boating, and I think I'm forgetting a company.
Yeah, I hope it's impressive, this new motorized that they're building. Otherwise, um, I think it's going to hurt them.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to have to really be something that stands out. I mean, we can kind of guess what it's going to be like or similar like because it's a Mercedes chassis. Uh, so I feel like that limit's not the right word, but it's going to be either a Class C or a Class B because Mercedes doesn't do A's, and they haven't anyway yet, and they don't do what would be the other type of, I guess that would really be it. So it might be like a View Navion. It might be a Winnebago Era. And again, I'm using Winnebago products because they have the same parent company. But that, if it's just a rebadged or rebranded View Navion, I don't get the point of it.
Yeah, I don't. I agree with you, Kenny. I
Yeah,
agree with you. Yeah,
be interesting to see what they're actually coming out with. But I would assume that I am about to get a lot of questions about it at these shows,
for sure.
even though we have nothing to do with Grand Design. Just because we got a Winnebago hat on or something like that, I think we'll have a lot of people come into the booth and ask about the new Grand Design vehicle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's everything we wanted to talk about.
I think so. But before we go, we obviously want to thank our sponsors, Battleborn Batteries and Wholesale Warranties. And we also wanted to remind you on our website that we have a brands that we trust tab. We kind of mentioned that we're going to add Kleen Tank to it. We are not affiliated with all these brands, but we do have brands on there that offer a discount code or something off. And like Passport America offers 3 extra months if you sign on for a 1 year membership. I really like Passport America. I'm about to stay at a Passport America in the next couple of weeks. There's a discount on there for the FMCA club membership. But we also have companies on there that don't really affiliate with us, don't really have any association with us, but we felt that they were still providing a great service and that they are good for the RV community. So they are still presented on that brands we trust. So we just invite you to take a look at those brands that Sean and I trust that we think are good for the industry. And I guess the only way they know if there's one that you get a discount is by clicking on it.
Yeah, or underneath the company, I tried to list the ones that have discounts. I tried to put what the discount is.
Oh, okay. There you go. Then
Yeah.
that's easy too. Then yeah. So definitely take a look at that brands we trust. Like I said, if there's something that you're shopping around for, maybe we can help you out by getting you a discount on something. If you haven't joined FMCA, we definitely highly recommend joining the FMCA club. I would say just for the FMCA assist is well worth the value. I mean, you're going to get more than you pay for out of the FMCA assist if you were ever to need it. And we do have an episode coming up soon for the audio version. But if you want to go to our YouTube channel right now, Sean, we got FMCA assist right there on the YouTube channel. If you want to hear more about FMCA assist and how it can help you get out of a medical bind.
Yeah, I was just working on that episode today, Kenny, and I'm still surprised by what it provides for just being a member of FMCA because the FMCA membership, I consider it to be pretty inexpensive. And then the just that benefit alone, all the stuff you could take advantage of if you needed to. Hopefully, you never do, but it's there if you need it. It's just incredible.
Yeah, I know Sean and I, when we were interviewing the guy, we kept on waiting for the gotcha moment or the why, how is this, so good? How can it be? Why does it sound too good to be true? And there was never that moment where he's like, oh, but you have to be this or you have to do this.
Yeah,
Nothing like
nothing.
that. It's crazy. And then we talked to a couple people that have used the FMCA assist and they said, we were glad to have it. It's as good as it claims to be, and there are no strings attached or any kind of funny wording and it's a great program and well worth the membership, being a club member. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely check out the FMCA club membership. Also, before you go, if you could just take the time to leave us a review or just a rating. Even just a rating would be great. You don't have to actually sit down and type anything out. We appreciate it if you do, but if you just want to, give us those 5 stars, or does it only go up to 4? I'm not
Five.
sure.
Five.
Does it go to 5? Okay.
Yeah, we don't want 4. We want 5.
We went 5. Yeah. So, if you're listening to us on like an Apple podcast or something like that, if you go to there, just leave a rating for us. You don't have to write anything. What these ratings do for us is just helps the show get ranked, helps us get noticed, easier for other people to look for us. Somebody types in RV podcast, it helps us get ranked and higher up to the top where people can find us. So we would really appreciate that. The channel's doing great. We are growing because of you guys, because of your help. Sean just let me know the other day that we're getting close to 100,000 downloads.
Yep.
So, that's it's amazing for us to be able to see you guys at the shows, chat with you through this. But if you want to leave us a review, that's great too. If you want to leave us a comment on our web page, that's awesome too. Any way you guys want to reach out and communicate with us is great by us.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, that wraps it up, and we'll be back soon. We have a lot of episodes recorded that we're working on getting out, so some really good ones coming up. So we look forward to it, and we hope you guys enjoy them as well.